What's up guys, welcome back to DCA. So what we're going to do in today's video is talk about Cardano. We're going to take a look at historical price data for Cardano in order to understand where the price is at now and what may come going forward. So the first thing let's talk about, Cardano has been getting absolutely destroyed ever since September. In fact, if we take a look at its peak price up at around $3.15 down to where we are currently trading at around 88 cents, we're down around 73%. So I think we're all well aware of that point. So let's take a look at support levels for Cardano, not just with relation to the US dollar, but also with relation to Bitcoin and Ethereum. So at the end of the day, while everyone tracks the price of Cardano with relation to the US dollar, you have to remember that these assets, especially the altcoins, don't trade in a vacuum. They're highly dependent on the actions of the larger coins, namely Bitcoin and then secondary to that Ethereum. And in particular, we want to value Cardano with relation to Ethereum because of the fact that, quite frankly, Cardano is attempting to directly compete with Ethereum, or users of the network, you can think of it as. So we're going to look at all of these things today. In fact, we're going to do a two-part series. In the first part of this, I'm going to discuss the price and support levels of Cardano. And in the second video, we're going to take a look at active users on the Cardano network. We're going to do the analysis today under the assumptions that nothing drastically changes in the market in terms of heading in a downtrend. Because anytime you're hearing someone talk about an altcoin, and if they're not talking about what Bitcoin is going to do or what the overall market is going to do, the analysis is useless because you have to keep in mind that it all depends on what Bitcoin is doing. So we've sort of hit a bottom at around 32K with Bitcoin, and we've recovered from there. And in fact, we've made a higher low from the prior low that we made back in July. So there's at least some manner of hope that the overall market can continue upward. Now, with that said, there's lots of macroeconomic level uncertainty. So these are all things we have to consider. But in a vacuum, we're going to look at Cardano. We're going to look at it with relation to the dollar, to Ethereum and Bitcoin. And we're going to assess what we may expect going forward as it stands at the moment. This metric that we're looking at over here is called the volume profile visible range. And what this does is it tells us how many coins were traded at each price. Okay, so in other words, you see that at around $1.20, as this value sticks out farther on the horizontal axis, that indicates that there were more coins traded at that level. Okay, and why does that matter? Well, at these levels where you see a high number of coins being traded, such as in this region here, these tend to be your strongest support and resistance levels. So when you're coming from the downside and you come into these larger areas, there tends to be more support. And that's exactly what we've seen. Every single time that we've fallen into this level, we've bounced off of it. All right. So you can see all the way back to around the beginning of 2021, we got into this level and we have been bouncing around right in this level. And that's reflected in the volume profile visible range. We see there's a ton of volume in that level. Now, unfortunately, what happened was on right here at around the middle of February, we dropped below this level. And now you see in this area here, there's simply not a lot of volume. Okay, and these have names, and they're called high volume nodes and low volume nodes. So you see, when there's not a lot of volume, you're in what's called a low volume node. And as you would expect, since there's not a lot of volume there, the price fell right through. So when we started closing below this level here into this lower volume node, we fell right through. And where did we fall? Into this higher volume node region here. So that's where we're currently at. We're currently sitting right at around this 88 cent level. And you'll notice that below around 84 cents is another low volume node. Where is the next area of volume? And it's not all the way down until around 65 up to around 70 cents. And truly, there's not a region of high volume all the way down until around 35 up to maybe 40 cents. So these are more worst case scenario type situations you have to look at. And the reason that we talk about this on the channel, in spite of the fact that it's not popular, no one wants to hear that Cardano can fall down to 35 cents. It's because of the fact that as a responsible investor, you need to know what your downside risk is. Unfortunately, now that we've fallen into this next high volume zone here, we're going to have resistance getting through this area here. And you can see there's just a ton of volume now that is formed right in this level. So anywhere from around $1.04 up to around $1.50. And the reason that is because you have a lot of people who are now sitting at quite a large loss on Cardano, and they will be happy just to get out of the asset at their cost basis. So you're going to come under sell pressure as you're coming back into these levels. Now, we all know this is crypto, and if a big player steps in and decides to buy the asset, they could just cut through this resistance like butter. And we've seen it numerous times with numerous assets, okay? So that's first thing that we're going to be watching for. We have a lot of downside risk, unfortunately, at the moment, ever since we've fallen below our best support level, which was right at around $1. And now we're sitting at this tenuous area here at around 88 cents. And it's kind of like we're hanging on a cliff. Unfortunately, there's a lot of downside potential below us. That's Cardano with relation to the US dollar. Now let's head over and look at Bitcoin. So you can see that, just like with the US dollar, we have these support and resistance levels that have formed over time with relation to Bitcoin. When we're looking at these metrics, you need to consider the market cap, simply because the market cap considers how many coins there are. So you need to understand, rather than thinking about just the price, you need to understand what the market cap is, because that is overall how it will be valued. It's harder to move an asset in price if the market cap is drastically increasing because of a massive inflationary supply. So that's first thing. Now let's think about Cardano with relation to Bitcoin in terms of their market caps. At maximum in its last market cycle, got up to, you can see right here, it says 0.1. That means it was about 10% of the market cap of Bitcoin. So that happened in January of 2018. And then we got firmly rejected off of that level here in August and September of 2021. So that corresponds with our price level back here when we got up to around $3.15 or so. So unfortunately, if you look right here at around 0.065 all the way down to around 0.055. So this is 5.5% to 6.5% of Bitcoin's market cap for Cardano. This was a support level that, we bounced off back in 2018. It was a resistance level. So we made this high, came down, and then bounced off of this level. Then we got rejected off of it right here in February, so the beginning of 2021. And then we broke through it quite dramatically and held it as support in August in preparation for our big run up to the prior all-time high again, but we got rejected. Okay, so it acted as a support level here. And then we held it as support for a while back in November. However, unfortunately, we've lost it, and you can see now it's become a resistance level. So we could not break above it here in January, in spite of this little attempt that we made right around here when we got back up to, $1.61. In fact, there was a lot of talk that, we might be able to start another run for Cardano because of the fact that we had broken above this downward trend line. We made a new higher high here, a new higher high with relation to this peak here, that is. Unfortunately, we continued to make a new lower low, and that trend therefore was invalidated, and we've continued down. And in fact, when we were unable to do that, that was an ominous sign, because you'll notice that's when we eventually lost this massive support level that we had down at $1. Okay, so we got rejected off this level. Well, now we need to think about other levels for Cardano below where we're at, since we're clearly in a downtrend. Well, the next support level that we have is probably going to fall somewhere in this zone here. So we have this zone anywhere from around 2.5 up to around 3.5%. So you can see that we've used this area as a support zone right in here. We've used it as support, and here we attempted to bounce off this level before, back in the last bear market of 2018, and we're unable to and headed further down from there. So this is the next level that's upcoming. And, this is all going to, at the end of the day, depend on the price of Bitcoin. If we're going to think about where this will turn out for Cardano in terms of the US dollar. Because remember, we're looking at Cardano with relation to Bitcoin here. So we're in a downtrend, and, by all appearances, this is going to continue unless we are somehow able to bounce off of this support level, which admittedly isn't it's not the greatest support level. It's nothing like this zone was back here at around $1. So this is something we're going to have to watch. And if you lose this level, then you're going to be heading down to here for Bitcoin. So that's the first step. And then, we have another support level right here at the bottom of this zone, all the way down to around 2.5% of Bitcoin's valuation. Then we can look at Ethereum, and the picture for Ethereum is a little bit worse, because you can see that, again, we got firmly rejected off of our all-time high versus Ethereum, not once here in March, but twice again here in August and September. So you can see we made this all-time high back in December and January of 2017, 2018. We came up and got rejected off this level in February and March. And then we got rejected again off of this level just before it in August. And this was at around 25, 26% of Ethereum's valuation. So what is this saying to us overall? This is telling us that investors are not willing to value Cardano at more than 25% of Ethereum at the moment. And why is that? And that's because Cardano still has something to prove to us. Whereas we know what Ethereum does. It has, it charges us a lot of money to use its network. So that's known. But at least we know what it does. We know that it has lots of apps built on it. There's a huge NFT scene built all around Ethereum. There's DeFi built around Ethereum. So overall, the smart contract platform, Ethereum, we know what it does, we know what it is. And, even Ethereum, though, at the end of the day, has a certain level of speculation associated with it because we're waiting on Ethereum 2.0 and whatever that's going to do. However, Cardano is still essentially in its infancy, in spite of the fact that it's been being developed for years now. In times of uncertainty, investors step away from speculation and move more towards sort of the sure thing. So as you're seeing this move down, this means that Cardano is bleeding with relation to Ethereum. And that's what we've seen. And now we're at this support zone here. And this zone is at around 10% up to around 8% of Ethereum's valuation. So if we fall below this 8% level, then you're looking at a bad situation where maybe 5 to 6% is where you could be headed to of Ethereum's valuation. And recall, that's coming from a place where we were at a quarter of the valuation of the Ethereum network. At the end of the day, what I'm expecting, and if we just step back and look at the big picture here, if the market continues to trend downwards, people are going to move away from speculation. So you can think of cryptocurrency as a risk-on asset. And within that asset class, there are additional layers of risk. And when you're talking about things like Cardano, and it's still being developed, and it still doesn't have a large ecosystem built atop it, it's speculative, and that's just the bottom line. And I know there's a lot of investors in Cardano, and it's not what they want to hear. But at the end of the day, we need to look at this from a realistic perspective. And that perspective is the fact that we're talking about a speculative asset in a highly risky asset class. So if things continue down, you're going to see people move away from Cardano like they're doing right now and continue to value it less until we see that there's more built upon it. Now, I don't think we're necessarily going to, I don't think it's within the realm of possibility that we head down to these sort of insane levels that we were at back in, points in 2020 and all the way back to 2018. I don't think you're looking at that again, but, if we just take a measurement here from the high, so, if you go down 90%, like we saw, you went down even further than that back in this cycle. You were down as much as 98%. That's going to put you down in that 20 cents up to 35 cents zone, which when we were looking at the volume profile visible range, so here that's kind of right around where your next high levels of volume start to form. So depending on how bad of a bear market you're anticipating, it's not insane to think that the price could go down to these levels. Now, I can't imagine it going much lower than this. And even if it did go to these levels, these are levels where I think it would start to get acquired at massive quantities, because I still think that there's a lot of room for this network to grow. I think that the path that they're taking, that includes, taking a rigorous academic approach to building the network, to making it secure, I think that is going to have value at the end of the day. It's just going to depend on, what form the network takes when it's finally completed. And, I think when it's all said and done, there's going to be, I do tend to believe that there's going to be a lot of value placed on the Cardano network. We may just not know what form that takes yet. And, it may manifest itself in a way that we're not even anticipating at the moment. But I do think that eventually Cardano is going to break through on the other side and be a highly coveted network. So that's it for this one, guys. If you guys like this type of analysis, hit like and subscribe. And until next time, as usual, see you.